Hey everybody, here's another 4:30 game on Prokhorovka, this time once again solo pubbing. Now I know I promised that I'd try and cut back on the Prokhorovka mid-strat videos, I know I did, but I'm a terrible person who can't make promises that they can actually keep. I'm so sorry. But anyway, there's some comedy that happens in this game, so at least there's that. If the replay will behave itself. Straight away, I head for the middle. I'm in an object 430. There is literally no better tank in a tier 10 match, in a medium, to spot the middle. The Batchat can do it, but the Batchat doesn't have armor. It's also fairly tall, and it doesn't have camo quite as good as mine. So he goes up and gets the initial spots. He actually ended up getting a lot of spotting damage this match. I think he got most of it, including all of this. I get one shot into the T-34 before it can cross, and then the Bat puts a tracking shot into the E-100, and a second tracking shot. This E-100 is about to die. Somebody burns him, his first extinguisher goes, and his tank just burns. Not much you could do about that. He did have an automatic extinguisher. As you could see, there was a single 99 tick. The first fire went out immediately. So that was an automatic extinguisher that got burned. And after that, once I hit him again, that was it. I'd say probably myself and whoever hit him before, I think it was probably the Batchat, actually hit his fuel tank. And fuel tanks catch fire a lot. If you hit someone repeatedly in the fuel tank, it's the best way to set them on fire over and over again. So aim low center on the side of an E-100 if it gives you the opportunity, and who knows, you might be rewarded with a nice bit of a firework. Now I want to take out the 132 because he's been a bit of a problem here. He keeps spotting me for arty, and once the enemy tanks start getting up onto the hillside, they can divert some of their attention down here too, which is quite dangerous actually. I'm showing them side armor at this point. So I actually turn to show them a bit of front, just in case. I take a quick shot at the E50M. Unfortunately, it hits our IS-8 right in the end of his gun, in the muzzle brake. Not to be deterred, I go for the shots on the E50 again, and this time it connects. Now, as I said before, auto-aim has its uses, and in a tier 10 medium, most of your tier 10 medium guns fire APCR as their default ammo. There are a handful that don't, but most of them do. And the thing about tier 10 medium gun APCR is that its muzzle velocity is so high that you can actually auto-aim moving targets from across the map, and quite often you'll hit them. Obviously, at full speed you're going to have a bit of a problem, but if they're just moving slowly up and down the hillside trying to get shots, jockeying for position, you're going to easily hit them every single time. And in this case, it allows me to maintain some awareness of what's going on around me, which keeps me alive. If I was zoomed in, tunnel visioned on these guys trying to get shots off, there's a good chance that the Bat would be able to push up on me without me noticing, or that arty shell would have landed on me instead. It sucks for the IS-8, but shit happens. In the words of our illustrious Prime Minister. And looks like most of the stuff on the hill is pretty low on health, so I'm going to see if I can clean some of them up from down here. E50 is the obvious choice, however I think that hit one of the wrecks next to him. He backs out, and that one definitely hit him. T-34 is my next intended victim. If I can just get a shot, but the houses are in the way, and he's backing down the hill anyway, so I see what I can do about this Batchat. Now, the reason I'm still playing a little conservatively over here is because, as you may notice, there's a big clutter of stuff that was last spotted in C2 and D2, including a 183. I do not want to get hit by a fucking 183. There's also a Waffenträger E100, which was never lit, and I can all but assure you it is over on the 1 and 2 line somewhere. Unfortunately, I let the Bat get a pair of quick shots into me, being a little careless there. I decide to risk taking more hits just to get shots into the mouse, because the mouse is a difficult target. and I have the opportunity. Unfortunately, I ate a hit from the Batchat Artie there, Batchat 155-55. It's not a huge hit for a tier 9 Artie, but it's enough to make me think twice about doing that again. Now, you do get a chance to hit the Lorraine here by popping over the rails a bit. Unfortunately, it's not enough to save R140, and it now gets the Lorraine's attention. So here's a mistake on my part. I look for another shot on the mouse. I do get it, but I eat a shell from the bat, and then the Lorraine is going to kill me, no question about it. I didn't even get time to get another shot off there. So I should have sat back a bit and waited for the Lorraine, because as you can see there, he's getting hit by everybody else, and I probably could have taken him out and survived to then deal with the bat and the mouse. However, if that had happened, I wouldn't be able to spectate the amazing spectacle that is our E75 over in B0. So I'm just going to hit the time acceleration here. I noticed something was wrong when I saw a heavy tank marker in B0, and then I spectated this. I don't understand. Maybe he thought he was going to kill Artie or something, and he thought the Artie was in that corner. He just drove up there and sort of milled around, gave his side to the Lorraine. A near full health E1, or not E100, correction, E75, one of the strongest tanks in the game, just drove off to the corner of the map to do nothing. Just really quite incredible. The ultimate disappointment here is that he has a kill somehow, and by a lot of pubbies' reckoning, if you have a kill it means you contributed. I don't have a kill at all. I'd done over 5,000 damage and spotted about 2,500 from memory, but I don't have a kill, so I haven't acquitted myself of reaching the pubby standards, I guess. And that's actually how I used to think as well when I was new to the game. In fact, in lieu of anything else interesting to speak about here, because we've all seen this map a million times, I'll talk about that for a bit. So, when I was new to World of Tanks, it was still in beta. It was very early beta. I started playing this in June or July of 2010. One of my friends got me an invite, and we started playing together, and then a bunch of my other friends got in as well, and, you know, we all played the game. I didn't play with goons as much as I do now. A couple that I knew from the firing range, TFR, and at that point I didn't even read the game's subforum, so I didn't really know the majority of goons I play with now. And back in those days, my winning strategy for World of Tanks was literally, no matter which tank I'm in, right-click the enemy, drive in circles around them, and just mash left mouse. Obviously, it wasn't a very good strategy, but hilariously, it actually worked more often than it didn't. I do not know how, and so ever since I can remember, so since like I've had, 2,000 battles, I've always been over a 53% win rate, I think it was. Always, overall. I mean, I had individual tanks, which I wasn't very good with, but my overall win rate has always been, as far back as I can remember, above 50%. Now, back then, sort of the mentality we all ran with was that if you contribute to a game, it means you get kills. There was a much simpler post-battle screen. It would actually pop up during the end of the battle, not in the garage, and it would just show you how many kills you got, which tanks they were, how many tanks you damaged, which ones they were, and then the awards, like Confederate and Sniper and all the old awards that used to exist back then as well, like Bolter's medals, and actually they used to be called Wittmann's medals. And so there was no actual way of telling how much damage you'd done, unless you used XVM, which wasn't around until much later. Sorry about Steam. I need to really stop being lazy and mute that when I record, but oh well. Yeah, so there was no real way of telling how much you contributed through damage dealt or damage spotted or anything like that. I think it had a column for tanks you detected as well, but it didn't actually tell you how much spotting you'd done. So really the only measure you had of how much you contributed, other than how much you felt like you'd been involved in the fight, was how many kills you had. And so the measure of success was how many tanks you blew up, and then how often you won games. And that was pretty much as far as anyone went with stats back in the old days of World of Tanks beta. Now, obviously, later along the line, I think it was after the game was released, but I could be wrong. I think it was maybe like after the game was about a year old or something. They introduced a new post-battle screen, which is the one that we all know and love now, that pops up in the garage after the match and has all your detailed stats. That never used to exist, and so you never really knew who had done what. You only knew what you'd done, and you didn't even know half of what you'd done, really. It was kind of shitty. So, back in the day, that was it. Kills were the measure of how much you contributed to your team. And, I mean, there was a lot of fun to be had killing stuff too, so quite often we just dogpile a tank and kill 2 or 3 people and think that we'd done our job. They might have only been a couple hundred damage kills, but they were kills, so they counted, right? And I've gone into this before, I think, to some extent. It is important to take guns out of the game, so killing tanks is definitely contributing, don't get me wrong. The thing is, there's a gulf of difference between somebody who does 5,000 damage and doesn't get a kill, and somebody who does 30 damage and gets a kill. A big difference. And so, when pubbies say, oh, I have a kill and you don't, and you'll go and look after the game and they fired their gun twice and hit once and cleaned up a tank that was at 10 hit points, it's pretty obvious that, you ended up doing most of the legwork and they just want to take credit. So it is an important thing to take guns out of the game, but you can't take guns out of the game unless somebody's actually taking the hit points off the tanks with the guns. So it's a big sort of team effort. Heaven forbid a team effort in a team-based game. Who would have thought? And you need to really try and do both as much as you possibly can. But these days we now kind of, or at least the people that are more serious about the game kind of grasp that kills aren't everything. In fact, quite often it's the damage that counts. The kills are just a formality. I've said before, tanks that are on 1 hit point still do have working guns. They can still carry a game. But a lot of the time, pubbies will not engage if they don't have full health. In fact, a lot of the time, pubbies won't engage if they have full health. Because they're cowards, basically, and they don't want to get their precious internet pixel tank scratched. And so you do sometimes get an effect where doing enough damage to somebody effectively removes them from the game, because they're going to go hide like a bitch in the back of the map and not try and prevent you from winning as you pile onto their cap. But these days people are a bit more aware, I think. But by and large, the sort of more casual players still think that kills are contributing, because most of them probably don't run XVM, or if they do, it's just so they know which players to click on with gold, and most of them don't really care, I guess, about trying to get their average damage up or about getting better XP, because you do actually, and this is something that bears a lot of mentioning, you get a bonus on XP and credits for different actions you perform in game. Now, one of those actions is damaging an enemy vehicle at a range of less than, I think it's 200 meters. And this is why a lot of people that play German tanks whine like bitches, because, German tanks are snipers and the Soviet tanks are brawlers, so they get an XP bonus. If you're playing German tanks as a sniper, you're fucking up, because the Germans have some of the best brawling tanks in the game. Case in point, E75, E100, E50, especially at the higher tiers, but even at the lower tiers, they've got some quite good tanks for it. I think probably 90% of the fighting I do in my Tiger 1 is done at ranges of less than 200 meters, probably less than 100 meters, because it's just so good at it if you know how to do it. And one of the other things, of course, is spotting enemy tanks, which is why people at Suicide Scout at the start of a game actually do still get XP, which I think, quite frankly, they shouldn't. It's not helping anybody on your team to tell that the enemy team is in fact leaving their spawn 20 seconds into the game. What a shock. I never would have guessed. Especially when later on in the game you need a light tank to reveal enemy positions so you can try and pull off a win, and suddenly you've got no light tanks left because they all just suicided. However, the thing that shits me the most that gives you an XP and credit bonus is kills. And the reason is that consistently, if you look at the scoreboards for completed games, you might have 5k damage and no kills, and there'll be a guy with 2k damage, this is in tier 10s, right, who has 2 or 3 kills. He always has more XP. Or there might be a guy who has 1300 damage in a tier 9 or 10 medium, but he has 6 kills. You have 4k damage, no kills. He has more XP. And so Wargaming seems quite content in rewarding people more for getting kills than they reward people for actually doing the hard yards that gets their team the win in the first place and gets somebody else a kill. Now, I'm certainly not about to jump up in the air about kill stealing, because it doesn't fucking exist. You don't own a kill. You claim it by firing the last shot that blows it up, as far as I'm concerned. And anyone who complains about kill stealing, frankly, needs to fuck off. But it is kind of shitty that you don't get equivalent XP for putting out such a large amount of damage, and that people potentially get rewarded for just firing their gun at 3 or 4 different tanks once each and hitting. Anyway, now I've actually had my little soapbox out of the way there. I'd like to thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I will try and do less of this map, this strat, this tank, because I know it does wear on a bit, but every match is different, even the ones that start out the same way, so I guess there's something in that at least. But until then, I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next one.